Today on Sugar Spun Run, I'll be showing you how to make an Oreo cake. Hey Sugar Spun Bakers, today is for my fellow dessert addicts who want to combine the best of both worlds. Today we are combining cookies and cake and making the best Oreo cake or cookies and cream cake that you have ever had. Now to get started, we're going to go ahead and preheat our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And today I'm going to be using my stand mixer, but if you don't have one, an electric hand mixer will work just fine. Now the first ingredient that you're going to need today is 2½ cups of all-purpose flour. I will include a substitute in the recipe notes in case you want to use cake flour instead. Now along with our flour, we're going to add 2 cups of granulated sugar, a tablespoon of baking powder, and a teaspoon of salt. We'll stir these ingredients together until everything is well combined. Now the next thing you need is 6 tablespoons of softened unsalted butter. We're making today's recipe quite similar to the way that we made my zebra cake recipe, which is the reverse creaming method. What this means is we'll turn our mixer to low speed and we're just going to add the butter 1 tablespoon at a time until this mixture, this batter, resembles coarse sandy crumbs. You always want to make sure that the first tablespoon is completely combined before you add the next one. All right, let's take a look at this crumb. So we have a nice sandy crumb and there's no butter stuck on the bottom. You just want to scrape the bottom of your bowl to make sure of that. Now, as you guys probably know by now, I love using a blend of oil and butter for the best flavor and the best texture. So now we're going to add 2/3 cup of a neutral cooking oil. I prefer canola oil, but vegetable oil would work completely fine here. To help make this cake really nice and moist, I like to add 1/2 cup of sour cream. Now for flavor, we're going to be adding a tablespoon of vanilla extract. My preference is to use clear vanilla extract just because it helps keep the crumb of the cake nice in a bright white color, which looks really nice against those Oreo cookies, but I can't seem to get clear extract, so regular it is. Now we'll stir this sour cream and vanilla in until everything's combined. Now reduce your mixer speed to low and we'll gradually add 3/4 cup of whole milk. Of course, you want to pause periodically and scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl. That way you can make sure all of your ingredients are really getting combined. Sometimes the batter has a tendency to try to clump on the bottom of the bowl. Our batter is nice and smooth, so let's set this aside and grab a separate bowl in which you are going to place 6 large egg whites. Now make sure that the bowl you're using is completely clean, completely dry, and totally grease-free. We'll be using a clean electric mixer to beat these egg whites to stiff peaks, which is a technique I use in several of my cakes because it helps give the cake a really light, airy, soft, and tender crumb. It is going to take several minutes of constant beating to get these eggs to stiff peaks. So you'll know your egg whites are at stiff peaks when you lift the beater straight out of the batter and the peaks that form, they hold firm. They don't fall back in on themselves or dissolve back in the bowl. These are stiff peaks. You are done using your electric mixer at this point because we are going to want to be very careful in how we handle our egg whites. We're going to add them into our cake batter and then just gently, using a spatula, fold them into the cake batter until everything is completely combined. You just put some time and energy into whipping up these egg whites. You don't want to use a really heavy hand when you're mixing everything and just deflate them. That would completely defeat the purpose. So as you can see, while I'm stirring everything together, I'm doing so gently. I'm kind of folding rather than mixing vigorously. You do want the batter to be nice and pretty smooth when you're finished, but it's not going to be quite as smooth as it was before you added the egg whites. Now, of course, we have to add our cookies. So I'm going to be using 20 Oreo cookies here. You don't want to crush them too small or else those cookie crumbs are actually going to turn your nice, pretty white batter gray. So I just like to break them by hand gently over the batter. Of course, you're going to want to be gentle stirring these cookies into the batter as well. I'm making a 3-layer cake today and we'll be using 8-inch round cake pans. As always, I have lined the bottoms with parchment paper and greased the sides with baking spray. The parchment on the bottom really helps guarantee that your cake won't stick. Now just evenly divide your cake batter into these 3 pans. I'm notoriously bad at evenly dividing cake batter into pans, and that's just when I have 2. Now I have 3, so wish me luck. Let's take these to our 350 degree Fahrenheit preheated oven where they'll need to bake for about 25 to 30 minutes. When they're finished baking, they'll be a nice light golden brown color on top. Don't worry, they're still nice and white on the inside, and a toothpick inserted in the center should come out clean or with a few moist crumbs. Give those cakes about 10 to 15 minutes to cool in their pans, and then carefully invert them onto a cooling rack where you're going to want to let them cool completely before covering with frosting. Now, to frost these cakes, I like to use a slight variation of my super popular cream cheese frosting. To make this, you are going to need 1.5 bricks or 12 ounces of softened full-fat cream cheese, 12 tablespoons of softened unsalted butter. Cream these together until they're smooth and well combined. Add 5 1/4 cups of powdered sugar. Now you can add this gradually with your mixer on low speed, or you can use my favorite towel trick where I add the powdered sugar and then cover the mixer bowl with a clean towel, and that keeps the powdered sugar from going all over your counter in your kitchen. Now we'll add 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract and just about 1/4 teaspoon of salt for flavor. To make this frosting nice and light and fluffy, I like to whip in 1 tablespoon of heavy cream. Start with your mixer on low speed and then gradually increase the speed to high and whip for about 30 seconds. If it's not quite as fluffy as you'd like after 30 seconds, you can whip it longer until you get the texture you're looking for. Once the cakes have cooled completely, we can go ahead and assemble and frost them. Usually when I make these cakes with all-purpose flour, they tend to bake pretty flat, but if you want, you can level them off once they've cooled with a sharp serrated knife. That will guarantee that your cake is nice and even. To decorate this cake, I'd like to take some pulverized Oreo cookies and just press them about halfway up the side of the cake. I usually pulverize about a cup of Oreo crumbs. I use about half of it on the cake, and then I'll take the remainder and I'll stir it into whatever icing I have left over. I usually do just about half at a time because I don't want to overdo it with the cookie crumbs. Then I'll pipe this frosting as a border around the top for some nice contrast. I'm using an Ateco 848 tip today, but any large tip like this will work just fine. All right, let's dig in and take a look. And that is how you make the best cookie-filled cake. This Oreo cake is one that I really think you're going to love, so if you try it out, please let me know what you think. I always love hearing from you. If you like this cake, I think you'll also love my zebra cake, so be sure to give that one a try as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Let's try this again. Might go back for that one.